Welcome to part 3 of the NVivo workshop for archival data. In this workshop, we're going to be going over how to use comparison diagrams, queries within select folders, and other visualizations. Comparison diagrams can show us what two items have in common and where they differ. So we're going to do this one first so that we can see how to generate comparison diagrams to compare two of the same type of project items. For example, we can compare files, codes, or cases to see their similarities and differences. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and open up NVivo and go back to our sample project. To generate a comparison diagram, we're going to be going to the Explore tab in the middle and then go to the Diagrams option on the right. And then under Comparison Diagram, we have Compare Files, Compare Codes, and Compare Cases. So we're going to use it to compare two of our cases for an example. We're going to hit Compare the Cases option, and this should pop up, and we're going to select two cases. So I'm going to go to Places, and I'm going to compare, let's see. Let's do Cedar Island and Harker's Island, and then just hit OK. And just wait a few seconds while the comparison diagram shows. Okay, so as you can see, I'm going to zoom in a little bit just to make it easier to see. Cedar Island and Harker's Island have a lot of codes in common, but Harker's Island also has a lot more codes in general than Cedar Island. So it looks like Harker's Island has some more unique features that were coded much more, or it might have just more content in general. That can just show you an example of what codes they share, what codes are going across multiple different locations or people or any other unit of analysis in your cases, what codes are going across multiple different time periods, etc. And then what codes are more localized to specific cases or code or items in your project. This can just help identify which codes are more aggregate and popping up themes and which are seem to be more localized. So yeah, this resulting diagram displays the relationship between the two cases that we selected in our project based on the coding that has just been done so far. And this can change as more things are coded. And just like earlier workshops and tutorials, if you want this diagram exported, you can right-click and export diagram. You can also copy and paste it into a Word doc if you prefer that. All of the diagrams and visuals made in NVivo, you just right-click and select Export Diagram to export them outside of NVivo. Next, we're going to be going over how to do queries and into a few different visualization options. Okay, so let's go to the Explore tab and we can start looking at queries. Queries allow us to research how language is being used. This can be particularly important in archival research if you're studying how language and themes are changing over time. This might help you identify ways that different context and language use and sentiments and stuff are changing over time. And for more information on different types of queries, you can see the introduction tutorial. I'm just going to do basic queries of word frequency in this one. So we're going to do a word frequency query here. And NVivo allows users to run queries within specific folders. So you can see it says search in all files and externals, selected items if you want to select specific files or items that you want it searched in, or selected folders. So for this example, we're going to do the most frequently used words in all of the interviews, and we're just gonna hit OK and then do the top 10 words in the interviews with a word minimum 4. So this example will show us the 10 most frequently used words in all of the conducted interviews. But if you are working on your own project, for example, where we made the newspaper file classification, this tool can be useful for finding the most frequently used words in your newspaper files that you've imported. You can also search within a case folder as well, as long as the case is its own folder, and etc. So I'm going to go ahead and run this query. And there we go. So within our selected interview folder, here are the most frequently used words with a minimum word length of 4. And that is helpful for just searching through all your data when you need a smaller scope, or when you're just trying to compare different units of analysis and compare things by time period or location or person, any case or units that you have identified as important for your project. And another way that you can also narrow the scope of your query searches is by selecting a case or file classification. So on the Home tab, we're at the top ribbon, there's going to be a query button right here. And you can press to select the query of your choice for a specific case or file classification. So if we go to file classifications, and actually let's go to cases since we already did file classifications on the last one. I'm going to select Buford, the Buford file classification, and then hit query, and I'm going to do a word frequency query in this particular case. And I'm going to do the 10 most frequently used words with a minimum word length of 4 and run that query. No surprise that Buford is the most frequently used word, but you can see there's other words in the top 10 as well. Sound, county, north, core, highway, island, cedar, rise, and east. So those are the 10 most frequently used words with a minimum length of 4 within the Buford case. Okay, and while I'm here, I'm also going to do query and do a text search query within. I'm going to select Buford again just because more things have been coded to it, and do query. I'm going to do text search query, And I'm going to search for how the word water was used in this case. And I'm going to run the query. And you can see that water has been referenced about 4 times. And if you want to view the references and the text and the data set and word tree, they're all here on the right-hand side with in different tabs. But basically, this feature would allow us to run queries in any of our file classifications or cases, such as the times period cases we created earlier in the workshop. This feature could be used to compare language use and assigned coding between data and different time periods. It's pretty helpful for archival data, I believe, since it's able to run queries in much smaller scopes. So if you're trying to compare different decades, um, this is a very useful option if you are making time periods and decades, etc., different cases. Also, if you're comparing 2 different places over time and you want to compare how those 2 places are being spoken about and talked about, this can also be a great function. So that is how we would do that. And then next we're going to go over a few different, some visualization options. The Home tab also has a visualization option in addition to the query options that you can run on different selected items. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this query here and the word frequency query as well, and the comparison diagrams. So I still have Buford selected. And if we go to the Home tab, you'll see that Visualize is also an option. So in this case, we can create charts or word clouds or an explore diagram simply by selecting it and then hitting the visualization option. So if we selected word cloud, that would give us the most frequently used words in a word cloud. So we can do that for any selected item. So if you want to do it for a specific place, we can do that. We can also go to a specific time period like we added earlier, a specific person, or we can do it for a code. So I'm going to do it for a natural environment. I'm going to select natural environment and then hit visualize. I'm going to chart code by coding. And the resulting graph you can see here shows the most coded files for that particular code. So for natural environment, these are the files and the percentage of the amount of coding that it takes up. So this marsh is a photo and it was coded 100% to natural environment. And you can click on them as well if you want to pull open the individual file. So here is the file that it's referencing. You can click on each bar to do that. And again, you always have the option of exporting the chart just by right clicking. So this is how we can visualize an individual code. And if we go to the chart tab right here, you can select data and just select what you want your X and Y axis to be. And then you would hit OK. I'm just going to hit cancel just because I don't need to change the data right now. This will also let you change the look of the chart. You can do columns or 3D bar charts, etc. All of that is here. And you can add titles and just change the formatting a little bit if you're planning on exporting the graph and need to change the layout at all. So this feature is pretty helpful because it allows you to create these visualizations for different parts of your data, from making visualization for each of your cases, or for your codes, or for even file classifications if you want to select any attributes of your file classifications and hit visualize. That's also possible. And for the newspaper articles we can visualize things by publication date, which is another attribute. If we want to visualize anything by attributes, just this visualization button under the Home tab can be pretty useful for any of your selections. So that concludes the end of the NVivo tutorial for archival research. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it helpful. Thank you again.